Hello, my personal finance peeps. Hope you're having a thrilling Thursday. So the last video you watched, he talked about several different things. I want to highlight a few of them. He talked about bartering. Um, Bartering is trading. So most of the time, we barter with money. Sometimes we can barter with items. So I've got a fishing pole that you might really want, and you've got a golf club I'd really like. Let's trade. Um, and you can sometimes work things out by bartering items. Uh, Maybe you would like to volunteer more, um, or you'd like to be more giving, but you don't really have the money to be giving. Uh, give of yourself. Um, Find ways to volunteer. Go to the food pantry or a soup kitchen or St. Vinny's or whatever. There's tons of places where you can volunteer. Um, so bartering is often a good way to negotiate. Sometimes something that has little value to you might have a whole lot of value to someone else. And so if you can trade something that has little value to you but big value to someone else, that can easily come out to be a win-win. Um, and you know, I've seen people that start with a very small object and continue to trade, trying to build value until they end up with something very big. A friend of mine, his son, tried to get a car that way. He started with a small item and traded with people and kept getting something bigger and bigger. I don't think he ever made it up to the value where he got a car, but he was having a whole lot of fun trading with people and trying to get bigger and better things. Um, so bartering is a neat way to do things sometimes. You also have to think about when you are buying from individuals versus businesses. Uh, when you are a business, you have to consider cost of goods sold. The merchandise that you have on hand, you paid a certain amount for, and then you've had to keep it on the shelf, and you've had to pay employees, and all of those expenses go into the calculation for how much your goods should be, how much it costs you for those goods, so that you know how much to sell them for. If you sell them below that value, your business is not making money. When you're buying from an individual, they don't really have those cost of goods sold concerns. They bought an item, they used it for what they needed it, they don't need it anymore, so they just want to get rid of it. And so there isn't as much of a price limit when you buy from individuals like there is when you buy from businesses, because they do have to sell it for a certain amount to make sure they make a profit. A good example of that is I was once working on buying a used car. It was actually a minivan. And I asked the dealership for the name and phone number of the person that traded it in, which you can do. And so they gave me the name and the phone number, and I called the person and I talked to him. And after asking a whole bunch of questions about the van, I said, I have one last question. It's up to you whether you want to answer it or not. But I was just curious, how much did they give you for a trade? And he told me that he had gotten $16,900 on the trade, which gave me an idea of where to go with my pricing. Well, fast forward, I ended up buying that van for $16,000. $900 less than they gave the guy on the trade. And you might think, well, how can they do that? How could they sell it for less than they gave the guy on the trade? Well, when they're considering their cost of goods sold, that trade-in, they were making money on the vehicle they sold him. And so dealerships are able to, because they gave him what he thought was an amazing deal on the trade-in, well, they were still making money on the vehicle they sold him, and were making quite a bit of money. So, and now when they're selling that vehicle, that gives them a little more wiggle room. So while I was able to talk them below what he traded in for, when they considered their cost of goods sold, they were still making a profit, because they were looking at the whole package of the vehicle that they sold him, the vehicle I was buying, and the vehicle that I was trading in. And when you took all of that into consideration, they were doing pretty good. I highly recommend shopping rummage sales and estate sales, and public auctions are a great place to find some good deals. You can really get some neat stuff. And then eBay is another good place to shop. And I have discovered I like to use eBay, and I use what's called a snipe tool. A snipe tool is a software outside of eBay, and you put all of your information in, and your eBay information and stuff into the snipe tool, and it bids for you with 5 seconds left in the auction. And the reason this is a great way to go, I know some people are like, well, why don't you just put in your max bid on eBay, and then it will automatically bid for you when people bid, and then you don't have to worry about it. That's fine, except most of us are highly competitive. And when we get highly competitive, sometimes we start bidding more than we want to bid. So when you put in your max bid on eBay, and then someone beats your max bid, all of a sudden you're like, ooh, wait, I really want that. And then it gets competitive, and you end up spending more than you wanted to spend. With the snipe tool, I put in one time what I'm willing to pay. It enters that bid with 5 seconds left in the auction. There's no time for a lot of back and forth. And if I don't get the item, I know there's 100 others on eBay. And in fact, on the snipe tool I use, I can put in a whole bunch of items that are the same thing, and it will keep bidding on those until I get one, and then it will stop. I've found it's a great way to get some really good deals. The snipe tool I use is called Gixen.com. It's a website, Gixen, and it's worked really well for me. I really like it. So that's another great way to save some money. And he also mentioned, if you know there's a convention in town, figure out a way to be hanging around when the convention ends, because generally there are a lot of vendors at the convention, and they don't always want to take all their crap home with them. And so sometimes they're giving it away, sometimes they are selling it for very, very cheap. So if you know of a convention, oftentimes that's a great way to find a deal too. So hope you enjoyed the videos on bargain shopping. Now we are going to get into some investing. So you can learn a little bit about investing and how to invest. So have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.